Hey guys, this is Mel, and I'm back to talk about Supernatural, the series finale that is episode 1520, titled Carry On, which premiered Thursday, November 19th, 2020 on the CW. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but I'm still not okay, even though it's been 15 minutes after the episode has aired. I honestly feel like I've been crying for the last hour and a half, like just on and off. And the moment I think that the tears are done, in the moment like I'm safe, it just starts again, and then it's just like, oh crap, here we go. So I feel like I'm all cried out, but at the same time I feel like I'm gonna start right back up again, which is really pissing me off right now. So I figured if I keep waiting, I'm never gonna record, so I figure why not record. So I hope you can all forgive the fact if I do break down during this recording. It's an emotional time right now. So huge spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the series finale already, well, what the hell are you doing here? First, go watch that, and then you can understand my deep emotional turmoil that I'm dealing with right now. But otherwise, other video reminders are up on screen. Just take a moment to remind yourselves of those. I just want to do a very quick YouTube shout out because probably haven't posted this many videos for Supernatural in a very long time. But since 1519, I did a video that tier ranked the seasons of Supernatural. I also did a video that compares the major deaths between Supernatural and the 100 that happened in their final seasons. I did a video there. And then I did 5 questions I kind of want answered before the finale video, which, let's be honest, none of them were answered in this, so I'm okay with that, but it's just something I need to be put out there. And we also got a new subscription, so I just want to do shout outs for any of the people who actually qualified under those 5 things. Thank you, Terrell Banks, Rodrigo Rodriguez, Cyan Davis, Kevin Lugin, Stacy25, Costner, and Mysterio, Master of Illusions. Thank you for all taking a moment to comment on any of the 4 videos I just mentioned. Also, even if you didn't comment and you're still watching, because I know my views did go up for these ones, thank you just so much for just indulging me by hearing what I have to say. It's definitely been a rough ride, and then it just all cumulated to today. So thank you if you're here to watch me break down in this video. Just thank you for taking the time out of your day to hear me need to vent out and fall apart before my eyes. So thank you for that. So let's talk about what happened in this episode. Well, first off, the episode aired at 9 o'clock. So before that, an hour before, they did a featurette special, kind of preparing you for the show. The thing is, they opened this up with the musical version of Carry On Wayward Son, which showed in the 200th episode. So the opening for the actual finale episode did not start with the song like traditionally all the finales had done. Instead, it ended with the song. So that was something a little different. And then up on screen, I'll post a lot of the different sections that they talked about in the 1 hour featurette, but it did bring a lot of the cast over the years and people behind the scenes to talk about the show. And that definitely, like, revisiting some key moments in the show and key characters, that definitely jump-started the waterworks for me. So as if I wasn't going to be emotional already, I got emotional an hour before I needed to be. So there's that. But also, I found a little fun little tidbit. I was dropping down the hole that is Instagram when you go past your regular feeds bit. And apparently, Kansas's song "Carry On Wayward Son" was originally released on November 19th, 1976. So, like, either they truly planned it out so that, well, COVID aside, just ignore that. But it's like they figured, okay, we have to delay the premiere to the fall. So what if we just had it end on the day that it premiered? Like, that's too much of a coincidence. I mean, like, that's kind of freaky. And I found that out a few hours ago. So I was like, what the hell? Like, I'm all for it, but it's still like one of those, like, are you kidding me? Like, there's no way things lined up like that. Just like, yeah, so there's that. But let's move on to the actual basics I usually talk about. Timeline-wise, I cannot honestly give you an answer whatsoever. I mean, to begin with, we don't even know how much time has occurred between Jack saying goodbye to the Winchesters at the end of 1519 to when we start with this whole new normal type of life for them. We don't know how long it's been. We don't even know how long they've been doing this kind of routine, because it did felt very routine for them. So we have no idea about that. And then when it came to the montagey bit at the very end with Sam and his life, that literally takes over years and years and years of his life. So, like, literally, we span a long way timeline-wise. But there's really no concern because it ends here. So there's that. And the episode reminders the fact that it's the series finale. It literally felt like the series finale. I think Jensen could not have put it a better way, where 1519 was meant to be the season finale, and this episode was ultimately the series finale. So, yeah. But episode breakdown, this is going to sound very bad, but pretty much the only way I can split it was the new normal as story 1, and then life without Dean, which is story 2. You can imagine already me breaking down from just that thought. Because literally that was, I'll talk about it later, but that's literally what the breakdown was. So new normal, pretty much, like I said, the whole mundane routine, pretty much all of them, everything we've always asked, like, what about them doing homework, or not homework, what about them doing laundry, just having a day in the bunker, making breakfast, and, like, taking care of things. They did that in this opening montage. And then we found that Dean kept the dog. I'm not sure if they still call him Miracle, but he kept the dog. And, like, it seems like Dean was the favorite. The dog bowl was in Dean's bedroom specifically. It wasn't like it was in the kitchen. So we do see that. And then we find that the case of the episode was this vampire nest that kind of pretended to be human, so they would wear these skull masks and they would kidnap kids. They would raise them and kind of teach them right, but also using them as, like, blood bags. They were harvesting them, as it were. I'm not sure if they were doing it so that they could turn them later on. I don't know if it was more like what happened with Alex in season 9 and how she was taken in and then used to be like a trap for humans to get the vampires their food. I don't know. But it was something like that. And it was during this hunt that Dean actually dies and has his final moments. Now, when they were, the whole time before Dean had his final moments, though, once I realized, like, okay, it was a vampire case, I started worrying because one of I was starting to worry that maybe Chuck's predicted future for the boys that he had showed Sam back in episode 1509 about them becoming vampires and them being killed off together as vampires. I thought that might be what they were walking into. And I'm like, okay, maybe I could accept that, because then the vampires that turn them would still be there. They could do they could do that spell work to turn them back into humans. But then Dean dies, so it's like, oh, maybe not, kind of thing. A lot of other things were going on through my head at that moment, but, like, now that I've had about an hour to sit with that particular scene, it kind of goes with there. So there was a few moments where I was wondering, oh crap, maybe Chuck's ending for them is going to actually come to fruition or not. Glad it didn't, but then again, I kind of wish it did, because that would have meant that they at least would have survived a little bit longer. But yeah. But the second storyline is Life Without Dean. Now, this was just heartbreaking, because we see Sam living his life without Dean. Pretty much, I'll say it now, okay? Dean dies in Act 3. And then in Act 4, it's literally just Sam by himself with the dog and really grieving over the loss of Dean. And at the very end of Act 4, when he gets told about a case in Austin, and from Dean's other phone, and being kind of referenced by Donna saying, like, he's the guy to take care of it, Sam was hesitant to go on the case, but then he goes on the case, and that's where we get the bunker lights closing and the dog leaving with him. That really felt to me like I was a little worried that Sam might be reckless on this case and actually be like, I don't give a hoot. So I was a little worried, because that's how the act ends. And then we come back in Act 5, and that's where we get Dean's reveal in heaven. So then once we get Dean's reveal in heaven, then we get Sam's actual life without Dean. So we see that Sam lives a life. He has a family. He has a son named Dean. And so we see them at different points. So, like, when he's a little toddler at the park, when they're playing catch when he's a little older, when he's helping Dean Jr. with his homework, when old Sam sits in the Impala again for the first time behind the wheel after such a long time, and then when Sam's on his deathbed and his son is letting him go, kind of a thing. So then we see that, and then all cumulates to the final scene of the episode, and that is Sam appearing in heaven and joining Dean on this bridge as they look out on this beautiful scenery, first off. And it's just like they're both I don't know what else to say, because even me just thinking about it, even though they are reunited again, I don't know. It's like, my emotions are the fact, like, I'm devastated because they died, but then it's also happiness because they're reunited and now they're happy with no worries now. So it's like, I'm like a mix of like, okay, where exactly am I feeling these tears right now coming from? So there's that. But then also to top it off, Jensen and Jared, like after the final credit card comes up saying like directed by, like that usual card before it really goes into the credit roll, it goes to a message of Jensen and Jared thanking the fans and thanking the experience and the journey they've been on. And then it pulls back and it shows the rest of the crew that was working on the episode all on the bridge waving goodbye. And that was just topping on the emotions, if you will. So that's truly how the final scene of the series ends. Let me collect myself for a moment before we get into tidbits. So the thing I wanted to say was that when Sam and Dean are reunited in heaven on the bridge, they're actually wearing the same outfits they did in the pilot episode. That's what Dean with the black jacket and the red shirt underneath, and then Sam with his like tannish color jacket and like the bluish purple t-shirt and then the hoodie. But hopefully I could put the photo up on screen. But they might not be identical because Jensen and Jared have definitely grown since they did the pilot. But the idea, when I first saw this screen cap of them wearing these same outfits and like comparing them side to side, the idea of just Sam and Dean having those same outfits after 15 years, like just having them still intact and in the trunk of their car, I was because I thought it was on a case. I didn't think it was them in heaven and that's why they'd still have the outfits. But like that really got to me, the fact that they would still have that same outfit all these years, only now to make it even worse, and that's their reunion outfit in heaven after so long. Well, for Sam it's been so long, but for Dean, who knows, because time is differently up there. But yeah, that was something there. But otherwise, what I wanted to talk about though, tidbits, was that when Dean goes up into heaven at the very start of at the very start of Act 5, which is usually like the last 10 minutes of 10 minutes of the episode. So he goes and he is welcomed by Bobby, who is sitting on the porch of the Harvell's Roadhouse, newly rebuilt. Dean finds out that Jack, with the help of Castiel, had reworked heaven so that instead of individual heavens where people are stuck reliving their best memories and kind of isolated from each other, Jack broke down all those walls so that everyone in heaven could live a peaceful life with each other. Kind of like a second chance at life, really. And he went back because Dean said, well, Bobby, I heard last time I checked, you were ejected from heaven because of what happened with Chuck. And Bobby revealed that Jack also fixed that. He retrieved all the people that were meant for heaven that got outcast due to Chuck's vendetta, and he brought them back. So Bobby is rightfully back in heaven. And we find out that John and Mary are living nearby the Roadhouse, happy together. We find out Rufus is living down the road with Aretha. I don't remember which character she's meant to be, but it's meant to mean something. I don't know if that was specifically Rufus's wife. Was he married at one point? I can't remember. I have to check. But it's like name dropping things there. And then they share beer, and then Dean comments on the fact that it tastes like the first beer he ever had. Bobby thinks it means like it's the good stuff, but Dean's like, no, it's crap. But it was like the best thing he ever tasted at the time, kind of a thing. So, and then he also finds out, Dean makes a comment like this, like things are perfect. And he's like, it's almost perfect. And then Bobby says like, don't worry, he'll come soon. And then Dean's like a little worried, but then Bobby reveals like, no, time's just differently up here. Many years up there could be just a blink up. Like just a blink up here could be many years down there. So Sam could live, for Dean it could be only a day, but Sam could have lived his whole life by then, kind of a thing. Which kind of, it looks like that's what happened, because then afterwards Dean said, when Bobby asked Dean, like, what is he going to do now? And then he looks to the car and says, I'm going to go for a drive. Funny thing, he says hi to Baby, obviously, but then he turns on the radio and Kansas's song is playing, and then Dean actually comments it, saying that it's a great song or that he loves the song, but he comments on it, so it's not just us hearing the song, but Dean's also hearing the song too. And then he drives, and this is where it's kind of cut between Sam's montage life and Dean just driving on the heavenly roads until he comes to the bridge. So it could. I don't know if Dean's actually just been driving, or maybe it's only just been a few hours for him before Sam rejoins him at the end with the bridge. So that's something there. But death tally, end tally, one last time. The 5 skull vampires. You got the 4 in the barn, and then you have the 1, or I guess 6 technically. You got the one that Dean decapitated, and then you got the one that Sam shot at and then shot in the head, and shot in the leg, shot in the head, and then they later decapitated. So that's 2. And then you got the 4 that are in the barn, so that's 6. And then you have Vampire Jenny, who was the leader of the nest, and then Dean recognizes her as being a former victim that they saved. So that was a surprise there. And then ultimately Dean does die, and then Sam later on down the line, he does die as well too. So that's something there. I mean, the fact that both Sam and Dean died at the end, I mean, with Supernatural, we kind of figured that in order for them to both stop hunting, it kind of felt like they would both have to go out swinging, essentially. But the show definitely did carry on with the tradition I found with a lot of the CW finales, or at least 3 of them or 2 other ones very heavily come to mind. So spoilers for that 2 very specific ones that come to mind. I won't say it. Maybe I will. So cover your ears. No. Well, no. I've covered them before. So I'll leave it at that. But so 2 of the CW ones, they do have it where we do see the afterlife for these main characters that do die. Technically 3. I can count 3 because of the one that just recently happened too. Wow. Why is it a common trope now to have it flash forward to the future, and then you do see them die, and then you see them in the afterlife? I don't know, but that's what we got. So there's that. Moving on to the most shocking moment of the episode, I think for me was the fact that, like I said, I kind of half expected that either one or both of them were going to die in the finale. I did not expect Dean to die in Act 3. I kind of thought it would happen like maybe Act 5, like the last part of the act, the final moments, and then maybe in his dying breath we'd get something that's like, okay, cut to him in heaven. I didn't expect half the episode for him to just die. So then, like, by that part, I'm like weeping my eyes out. After that commercial break, or not after that commercial, going into that commercial break, I was like hyperventilating, and it was just like, it was not pretty. And I was just like, what the hell is going to happen now if he died already at this point? What the hell is going to happen for the other half of the episode? And then to see him again in Act 5, which you kind of hope, like, I kind of hope that we would see him in heaven, but then, like, we never knew with, like, the whole arrangement that Chuck had left heaven in. So it was like, to see him again at the beginning of Act 5 and get that confirmation of, like, oh, he's actually alive, he made it back to heaven, because even Dean was surprised at the fact that he made it. So it's just like seeing that heaven was an option again kind of renewed the fact that, oh, he's not dead. You know, he has his own chance at the afterlife he deserves, which was great. But that brought on a more slew of tears of the happy sense, which turned into the devastating sense when Sam had his moments of grief and then he eventually died, and there's just like, okay, I'm all over the place again. And then you have them reuniting in heaven, and then like they're happy tears, but then devastating tears because they're dead, but that yet they're reunited. It's just like, what the hell? And I'm feeling it again. Shit. Oh, damn it. Sometimes I really don't get why I react so well, like how I react so powerfully, I guess you could say. I don't know if it's because this is a show I have been following for the last 15 years. It's been a huge part of my life. Or it's just because of how relatable the characters are. It's because I've become so invested in the characters. I don't know, but it's just like, Jesus. Okay, let's move on to familiar faces. Like I said, Jenny the vampire. I had to double check because I wasn't sure if she was the vampire victim from episode 120 or if she was the vampire victim from 203. Turns out she was the vampire victim from when John was on the hunt with them, so 120. So that was something there. I'm glad that they did add a little bit of like a quick cut, like flashback moment to kind of remind us of the fact that this is why Dean remembers her. But then also kudos for his memory of like, oh, I remember that face from a case 15 years ago. Technically 17 because of the whole chronological thing. But anyways, I'm not going to get into that. That's a separate video I did card up top if you want to go check that out. And then another familiar face was Bobby. I mean, that wasn't a surprise because he did appear in, like, as a special guest in the credits, which I shouldn't be reading those, but when did that appear? It was during the Pie Fest scene. That's when his name popped up. It's like, oh, Bobby's coming back. Didn't know which version of Bobby. I mean, I kind of hoped that it was in connection to Heaven, but yeah. But it was just those two, sadly. And I'm not counting any, like, the photo stuff that was being shown. No. Because otherwise you could technically say familiar faces came in, like Mary and John, because of all the family photos that Sam had back in his home in the future montage. So there's that. But let's move on to the top 3 favorite moments. This was tricky because I didn't know because usually I classified favorite moments as like happy, good, jolly, or like really like very satisfying scenes. But this one had me as an emotional wreck. So it's like, how do I judge that? But for sure, definitely, even before the episode aired, that scene, the sneak peek that they released, which is with Sam and Dean turning up at this pie fest, and then just Dean being so excited how it's all beautiful, and then him getting 6 sample slices of pie, and then Sam smashing the pie in Dean's face. And also, if you see the old guy in the background, he's watching and he's just laughing with them. I mean, he's meant to come off as like someone who just walks by and you suddenly see someone get a pie in the face, and it's just like I'm with that guy right there, like I'm right there laughing with him. But it was just funny that they could have the camera moved it a certain way to not see that guy, but they kept him in there. So I was like, I love that. And I'm wondering if that was actually like a scripted like extra where it's like, okay, you'll be in the background, just react to what they're gonna do, or if that was just by accident, an extra was just walking by and they just caught his reaction to the whole pie thing. Anyways, that's not the point. I loved watching that sneak peek because it was just them being lighthearted. It was building on the gag of Dean and his pie and always loving it. You kind of build on the gag of the whole pie smashing thing that Misha did when he was directing back in season 9, and Jensen now getting a taste of it for himself, kind of a thing. It was just very lighthearted because then he's also eating the pie off of his face. So that was a good lighthearted moment as well. I could argue that their starting montage of the mundane life of them was also pretty cute too, to see them do all these very regular things and finding joy or calm to doing them. So I thought that was pretty cool, so I'll tie that in there as well. Now, in regards to, I probably shouldn't say my this section shouldn't be my 3 favorite moments. It should be my 3 emotional moments, for sure. Because the next one I have to say is just Dean's death scene. Pretty much Act 3 in itself. Dean's death was devastating. I don't think I've cried so hard since the first time he died in 9/23. Like when he said that I'm proud of us moment right after Metatron stabbed him. And like, because like, yeah, like, I really don't recall how I reacted when he died in 316. Because, like, we kind of knew he was going to die because he had that whole season prepare for it. And I mean, in a way, you kind of have the fact that this is the series finale to prepare for the fact that he may or may not die. But I think it was the fact that he died halfway through the episode was something that I was not, like, completely floored me. And then you have this whole speech about him feeling it and like feeling numb, and then like him not being able to move. Oh shit. And then him having to say these last words to Sam and like just tell him like how proud he is of him, how much he loves him, and how much he looked up to him. And then like begging Sam not to leave him alone, even though Sam wants to get help. And I kept thinking, like, Jack, come on, help, but I know he's not going to. And then just having him bring up the memory. And then a whole part, the part when he was telling Sam that Dean needed him to tell him that it was okay for him to let go. That it was okay for him to leave. And Sam was like, no, but he feels like he's gonna go, but he needs to hear it before he does. And then eventually Sam caves. And he said it was okay for Dean to go. Like, shit, I'm crying again. And then I have them touch heads, and then I have them both crying, and then Dean takes his final breath, and then he's crying, and it's just like, I can't. Oh, shit. Oh, crap. Yeah, I don't think I haven't cried this hard since Dean died before he came back as a demon, because we weren't sure if he was going to come back as a demon. I don't think I shouted as hard as I did when that happened either in season 9 finale. Oh, crap. Yeah, Act 3 was not nice on me at all. But I have to say it's a favorite. Or, correction, I have to say it's the most emotional moment I had in this episode. Because I did not know if this was actually the last time we would see Dean. And to have him say all that he said to Sam is just like that. It's like, again, that mix of like a different emotions for this. Oh, shit. Sorry if I'm swearing too, but I definitely didn't expect me to go through the ringer again just talking about it. Okay. The next favorite, or the next emotional, I should say, is probably Act 5. When we actually do get the confirmation that Dean is in heaven and happier times are ahead. The happy tears are starting slowly falling, but then when it came to seeing Sam's life, the fact that he had a son named Dean, the fact that he was able to live this apple pie life that he always wanted, yet still sticking to his brother's word, and then being able, like, the fact that he has the family portrait that they took in the 300th episode sitting in front of the fireplace. He literally dies in front of that picture too. And the fact that his final moment was with his son, who does the exact same thing that Sam did for Dean. Took his hand and told his father that it was okay, that he could let go. And then Sam smiles and flatlines, and then he's back in heaven with Dean. It was just like, I can't. But like, this one's hard because I'm still crying over the fact that Sam's dying, even though I know he's gonna end up in heaven and he's gonna reunite with Dean. Like, I know that's gonna happen, and yet I'm still crying my eyes out. So it's like, what the hell? It's not like when it's with Dean, where I had no idea in that moment if we would see him again or not. And then this one is like, I do know I'm gonna see him again because I'm still waiting for that matching outfit scene, and yet I'm still waiting. Can you imagine if they end the episode right when Dean feels Sam behind him and he says, "Hey, Sammy." Can you imagine if they cut the episode right there? Oh, I would have been pissed. But to see them actually smile at each other, hug, and look out on the scenery and feel like they're finally at peace was just, I can't. Again, another emotional moment. Shit. This episode put me through the ringer. Like, what the hell? Oh, give me a moment. And you know me, I never edit the audio. The only time I've edited it is if a phone call interrupts and rings it. But, like, I'm crying as I'm crying. I'm not cutting out me trying to get my bearings or anything, which is kind of an embarrassing thing, but then at the same time, it's like, I do want to express just how much of an impact the show has had on me, or at least this episode in very particular. So I hope I'm not the only one that went crazy. I definitely know for sure that there's a reason, or I thought of it afterward, like after my whole crying fit. If there was ever an episode for me to do a live taping reaction of me, it would have been this episode. It would have been a full-on ugly cry, but like, which kind of reminded me of what happened with the originals and their finale. Yeah, that's pretty much. But yeah, so, sorry. The last favorite, I will say, are the callbacks in this episode. And specifically, I've already mentioned a couple of them, but I did want to speak on them specifically. I really enjoyed, like, even though I'm crying my eyes out when it was revealed, I did like the fact that Dean brought up his trip in the pilot where he was going to get Sam from Stanford, and how he just kept rethinking and saying, like, he kept on hesitating, and I think he was pacing in front of Sam's door, debating whether or not he should go in or not, questioning whether or not how Sam would react to seeing Dean after 2 years without speaking or seeing each other. And first off, that was painful, just to know that Dean even had to question the fact on how his own brother would react to seeing him again. That was tough. But it's interesting that he brought that up specifically. And then also the fact, like I said, the fact that they reunited in heaven wearing the same outfits they did in that pilot episode. That's another thing as well, which killed me before this episode even aired. And now it killed me now that I've seen the episode. But then also, they did it with the line as well. And that was, originally, in the pilot episode, Dean says, "I can't do this alone," and that is a reference to finding Dad and going hunting and trying to find Dad. Sam goes, "Yes, you can," and Dean counters with, "Well, I don't want to." In Dean's final moments, they flip it. So Sam is saying, "I can't do this alone." Dean says, "Yes, you can," and Sam says, "Well, I don't want to." And if there's ever anything to remember from the pilot, to have that reversed and put back on me now, that broke me even more. That, like, set me off on another round of tears during that moment. And I was done, I tell you. And then there's already callbacks within the episode itself. And that was with Dean asking for Sam to tell him it was okay to go. And then Sam telling him, "It's okay, you can go now." And then to have that phrase repeated years later when Sam is on his deathbed, and having Dean Jr. saying to his father what his father said to his brother. Fuck. Setting me off again. Like, just the meaning behind that. Again, both beautiful and heartbreaking all at the same time. I think for me, this episode literally could be summarized as being a beautiful yet heartbreaking end. Heartbreak, whether it's sad or whether it's happy, it's like heartbreak all the way around. Because on the one hand, heartbreak over the fact that Dean never did get to live a life outside of hunting, but Sam did. Heartbreak over the fact that Dean's life ended short and Sam had to live a life without him. Again, heartbreaking. Heartbreaking over the fact that his legacy, the show, is now over when it had a huge impact on my life. The fact that I'm crying right now should say enough. So it's just, and yet the way they tied everything together, the way they paid attention to the detail of the brothers' relationship, was the beauty behind it. Beauty behind this mayhem, as it were. So there's that. Moving on to top 3 peeved moments. Really don't have any peeve except for the fact that I'm now an emotional mess. I'm an emotional mess. The fact that also the one peeve I did have, and it wasn't because I didn't like it, but it was the fact that it reset the emotions again. And that was because we got to see a mundane, like, a group of mundane moments with Sam and Dean, and then we had those same moments kind of repeated, or to a degree repeated, when it was just Sam after Dean had died. And then I remember when that happened, I'm thinking, "Oh, you cruel bastards, that's why you showed us Sam and Dean having breakfast together, why you're showing them making their beds, why you're showing them getting ready in the morning, why you showed all that in the beginning is because you're going to do the exact same thing, just when Sam is by himself and without Dean in his life." No way to show a huge contrast than that. And it's just like, you broke my heart. And that's just adding to the emotional distress that I feel right now. And I will say one peeve though was the fact that a part of me does wonder if we would have seen more characters, or if more characters would have been written into the episode if the COVID guidelines weren't an issue when this was filmed. Because a part of me did want to see a reunion between Dean and Cass in heaven. A part of me did want to see a reunion in itself between Jack and Cass in heaven. A part of me kind of would have wished that we saw a lot more familiar faces in heaven welcoming Dean. But I'm wondering if that was ever even an option when it came to before COVID became an issue. When, like, if this was actually filmed in March when it was supposed to be, would we have gotten any of those extra familiar faces, or did they make up for it by adding all the different name drops? We got the name drop that Donna was still alive again. We got the name drop of Castiel helping Jack out, so we know that Cass is not in the MT anymore. So that was a question there. Also, I'm wondering, because I heard a rumor that Uriel was supposed to come back, but I don't think I saw him. So maybe, was that a cut that happened? I'm not sure. But yeah, so that was something there that's probably the one peeve I'll always have with this episode in particular, is the fact that I would always wonder what the original episode was meant to be if COVID wasn't an issue. But because of that and the guidelines that they have, I think they did a phenomenal job with what they could work around during the times that it was a few months ago. So, do I have any questions? Not really. I mean, it's not like they're going to get answered unless I go to a convention and have the guts to actually ask it. But, or if I ever someday in the industry work with anybody behind the scenes or with any of the cast somewhere, and I just remember, hey, I have this question, did you know, would you know? I don't know, wishful thinking, but you never know. I'm trying to get into this industry, so who knows. But otherwise, yeah, that's pretty much it. I know if I keep talking on those specific scenes in particular, I'm gonna bawl my eyes out again. We don't need to hear that again. I'm pretty sure if I watch those two scenes again, I'm going to bawl my eyes out again. So maybe rewatching it on PVR is going to have to wait until it's digested a little more. But yeah, so please let me know in the comments down below, guys, what you thought about the finale. Please tell me I wasn't the only one bawling my eyes out. Please tell me I wasn't the only one. Even bawling my eyes out now as I talk to you guys about this. But yeah, please let me know. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos if you haven't done so already. If you want, check out my Tumblr page. Link for that is down below. I read blog promos, web clips, quotes, gifs, synopses, news, all that good stuff. So all found in one place. Go check that out as well. A little behind, but I hope to... usually when I do Tumblr, it's like a full day thing for me, because I just reblog or re-update everything on that site that I can. So I have to pick a full day where I got nothing planned in order for me to tackle Tumblr. But keep in mind for that, in case you do follow that. WordPress, same thing. Anything I post online is connected to WordPress. A little more organized, a little more detailed, but still a work in progress as well. Also, LiveJournal entry link is down below as well. Jot down the versions of the episode as I watch them for the first time. It's a great summary point. It's just... it helps me before I got PVR and before any episodes went online streaming. I've done it since season 6. I figured why not do it to the very end since I've come this far already. So that's there if you want to check that out as well. Plus, I also would put the stuff I found on Tumblr connected into the jot notes just to like jump my memory. Oh, that's when that scene happened, and like, or in that part of the episode. So anyways, that's just for me. But you guys can check that out as well. Otherwise, that is pretty much it. So guys, thank you once again. If you've stayed to this very end, this is pretty much as long as the episode is itself, but thank you so much for just tuning in, hearing me bawl my eyes out, and just thank you for sticking on this journey with me for the final 7 episodes when it came to these recaps. It truly means a lot to me, especially in these more isolated times. It's great to just have a place where I can just talk about an episode and start a conversation with people who've commented on it. So I truly appreciate that. Thank you so much. But But yeah, I got one question asked me now that Supernatural's over, what are you going to do? I literally don't know. It's that weird feeling, and it's just, maybe it's just because I'm still processing the fact that the finale just aired. But I do want to do a video, the next video hopefully I do after this one. I do want to express what the future of this channel would hold. I mean, I'm not done doing reactions, but maybe different ones might be coming up, a different schedule might be planned, because there's no actual new episodes airing because of the whole COVID delay. So I do got a little bit of a breather room there. So yeah, I hope you guys click the notification bell in case you do want to hear about that update video. It definitely won't be as long as this one, I'll guarantee you that. But yeah, so again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for your patience. This is Mel recapping a Supernatural video for one last time. Still debating whether or not I'm going to do the whole series binge that I started last year and do those videos again or not. But again, I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. So wherever you are in the world, have a great day, great night, great afternoon. Please stay safe. Please wear a mask. Please stay physically distant from everybody. And I'm giving virtual hugs out to everybody right now because this episode was a roller coaster. So take care, guys. Bye.